Rob Dowse, welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here.
Now, I have the tremendous advantage that we were company mates. So we spent a lot of time together. Not only that, we were actually in the same regiment together, so we have a lot of shared plebe kind of information together. So we could just sit and talk about the details of our company and really gossip like crazy. But that would not be fair to the listening audience. But boy, it would be fun.
It could be. Yes, it could.
So tell us where you are now and what you're up to.
So currently I am in Marina del Rey in California.
Beautiful place.
Been here, in Southern California now almost 4 years, 3.5 years. I am currently driving boats. I'm a boat captain.
Big boats, though.
Big boats, yes.
Yeah.
And some small boats. I drive for a variety of companies here. My primary company that I work for is Hornblower / City Experiences. We have boats around the world. We're one of the world's largest tourist boat companies.
Yeah.
We do the ferries at Alcatraz. We do the Hornblower yacht at Niagara Falls and Statue of Liberty. So we have boats everywhere, and we have a pretty big presence here in Southern California, in Los Angeles, in San Diego. And so I drive boats from 35 feet up to about 125 feet.
And you're a registered captain, right?
Yes, I have my what's called Master 100-ton vessels near coastal waters.
Yeah. And so when you say you drive boats, that's a self-effacing way of saying that you're the master and captain of vessels over 100 tons, which is kind of a big deal. That's not, and you take responsibility for the public who come on the boats, which is a big deal.
Oh, I always say everybody loves to be captain until it's time to do captain shit. It's all fun and games until something goes wrong, and then when the boat starts to sink, it gets a little nervous.
Wearing the fancy hat looks like a lot of fun until you have to wear it.
Yeah, it is. And I've only had one boat try to sink on me so far, so I've been pretty happy about that.
And what happened when one boat tried to sink on you? What was going on there?
So it was an interesting experience. It was my first wedding that I was officiant at the wedding. And so we had taken the boat off the dock and we were out. I had just performed the service and signed the paperwork, went back up to the helm and relieved my first officer at the helm.
Yep.
And we had a new first officer who was training on board, a guy named Chad, great guy. And Chad goes, okay, I'm going to go do an engine room check. And he takes off. And a few minutes later on the radio, he calls me. He's like, there's a lot of water in here. I'm like, oh, okay. And I turned to my full-time first officer and I'm like, Hunter, go see what the hell Chad's talking about.
Yes.
And so Hunter runs down there and a few minutes later on the radio, it's like, Rob, we have a ton of water coming in right now. I think we need to do something.
Visual.
Yes. Yeah. So and luckily I was relatively close to the dock. I was only about 5 to 10 minutes off the dock, and I'm like, okay, we're going to the dock right now.
You didn't have to go on the intercom and say, folks, the good news is that we were able to complete the nuptials.
No. At this point, I wasn't saying anything to the guests. It was right after the wedding, and so I took my time. Or I got us into the boat, and I called. We had another boat getting ready to depart, and I called that captain saying, hey, I'm bringing the boat back in right now. Please don't pull out. I've kind of got an emergency on board. I'm sinking. I have got water coming into the main engine room. Let me pull in. And as I was parking the boat before I'd even gotten the boat fully tied up, he jumped on board and ran down into the engine room and just told me that to turn off my starboard engine. And what ended up happening was that the main intake, the engines are water cooled. The main engine sucking in seawater. The main intake had separated at one of the joints. A hose clamp had come undone and it had separated. So we had a 6-inch pipe dumping water into the engine room.
Versus cooling the engines, it was cooling your chances of getting back to base there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So luckily, as soon as I turned off the engine, we turned it off soon enough that the engine didn't overheat.
Okay.
We got the bilges were able to pump out the bilge. I was able to hop down there and reconnect the pipe and get it all back into service. And all we did was we changed the cash bar to an open bar for 40 minutes while I did the repairs, and then they had just sat down for dinner, and we took off and
See,
continued
that's a
on
clever
for.
captain right there. He switches the bar tab.
Yeah,
Nobody's the wiser. That's good. Did
yeah,
you head back out with the
yeah,
folks and they could
yeah.
finish?
Went back out, and they enjoyed the rest of their reception on the water, and turned into a great evening.
And forevermore, they're going to say, "Do you remember that open bar on that boat? That was
Yeah,
amazing, right?"
they gave
So
us free
look at that.
booze.
You're part of the family lore.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Not knowing they all almost ended up in Davy Jones's locker. Oh boy.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah,
Good
it's
for
all fun
you.
and games until something goes wrong. But yeah, other than
Yeah,
that, I
but you
drive
do
in
have that
circles.
moment where you're like, "Oh, I'm sinking. I have a wedding
Yeah,
party on board, and I'm the captain." Well,
it was.
so how
Yeah,
does
I
that
was a
work
little nervous.
in this civilian world? In terms of since we're a bunch of old folks who think about these kind of things, is the captain personally liable for that, or how does that work in your world?
Um,
Like if there
I
was an
do have.
error made, and that was because of an error that someone made on the
I
crew.
do have liability insurance through my
Yeah,
company. They do provide insurance for us and lawyers and everything because there is a risk of liability being enforced upon it.
yeah,
So just in case there are things in place to protect us, and that's one of the advantages of working for a big company.
right, right, because they have all those
You know,
systems in place, and over the years that they've developed, they know how to handle situations like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's one of the reasons I keep working for Hornblower right now. And although I do pick up work at a couple other uh, party boat type places that as a 1099 employee as opposed to a W-2 employee.
But being a captain is kind of it's an interesting world. It's like almost like being a cameraman in the film industry, right? You do have this gig work kind of world. We have a friend who's a captain of different types of voyages and stuff, but it's a very
Hmm.
fascinating way that you all kind of operate because you're basically in the responsibility business, right?
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, but it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy being out on the water. It gives me a chance. As my boss likes to say, look around us. It's like
Yeah,
look at our office. We're out on the water. I mean, here in California, it's not quite as exciting as it was in Hawaii. When I was driving boats in Hawaii, I was out on the ocean every day. Here, I'm in the marina most of the time. We have
yeah.
Marina
Well,
Del
let's
Rey was the world's largest small boat marina until they built the one in Dubai.
right.
So, we have 5,000 boats here, and there's lots and lots of water. It takes about an hour to drive around the whole marina, just doing a quick racetrack
Yeah.
without going down into all the fingers and everything. So it's a nice marina.
But you've always been an outdoor enthusiast.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the sailing team in school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was some of my experience to when I was applying to get my captain's license originally.
And you're from California originally.
Well, I was born here, but I grew
Yeah.
up in Utah, and was more of a mountain person until we finally decided that the ocean is where we're going to settle on.
Yeah. Well, that's so a common thing. But when did the serious boating enter the picture for you? Was it a natural
Uh,
and slow regression, or one day you woke up and said, "I want to be a captain of larger
well, I
boats"?
guess going back, to West Point in our swimming
Sure.
classes, I took scuba there, and that's the first time I got scuba certified. And then I went through certification again at Fort Lewis.
Hmm.
My company commander wanted to get certified, so we did that for PT and
There you
started
go.
diving in Puget Sound. And then, after I moved on and got out of the Army and was working in the outdoor industry in Colorado, climbing, basically. I traveled and climbed mountains and got away from the ocean. But then when Kim, my wife, got transferred to Hawaii, uh, we started snorkeling a lot, and that rekindled the interest in diving. And on one of our charters, we were going out. I sat up
Hmm.
top and chatted with the captain, and it sounded very interesting. So when we went to get chem certified for diving, they had a "Do you want to work for us?" button. So I clicked on that, and then it said, "Do you want to be a captain?" So I clicked on that, and it said, "Well, if you don't know what you're doing, we'll train you." And so I did a job interview, and they hired me.
2 button clicks, and there you go.
Yeah, they hired me to be a deckhand. I was, an indentured servant. Basically, I worked for about a year with no pay, but free diving, and I was on the boats multiple days a week building my sea time. You had to have 720 days experience on the water.
So it's like flying. You build hours essentially, or sea time. Yeah.
So built my sea time up for a year, and combined with my sailing experience, I was able to apply and got approved 5 years ago. So I've had my captain's license for 5 years. It expires next month, and thanks to the government shutdown, hopefully they'll give me an extension.
Yeah, well,
the Coast Guard is apparently 19,000 applications in arrears for people trying to renew their licenses, so they keep extending it out a month here, a month there, and so that's where we sit.
I realize in the last 2 paragraphs, you've just basically kind of explained your life as almost like a travel brochure. You have every type of adventure listed there. We was climbing and decided to go scuba diving. Now I became a captain. For goodness sakes, any hot air balloon work there? I mean, for the rate you're going.
My last time in a hot air balloon was spring break, our first year, when Mark Esper and I took the tactics club to England, and we jumped out of balloons.
Well, so you've been in a hot air balloon, although not necessarily driven one per se, but you jumped out of. Wait a minute. You and Mark Esper took the tactics club to England and jumped out of balloons.
Yeah, we earned our British jump wings as cadets with the
out of
tactics
balloons.
Club. Out of balloons. That's what they had us jump out of the old British barrage balloons, and
really,
it was very cool to get cranked up in the balloon and utter silence, and to hear the guy "Go ahead, mate." And I'm like, "What?" It's like, "Just walk off." So you walk off the back of the balloon, and it's kind of weird.
It's funny, when Mark was the Secretary of Defense, he never once said, "I jumped out of a balloon." But you know what? He could have.
He could have. He could have. Yeah.
That's terrific. Good for you guys. Well, what a great boondoggle that was. Congratulations. That's one of the best I've heard so far. The scuba club went down and sunk a boat in Florida, but they didn't jump out of a barrage balloon in England. We could aggregate this together in the 86 Follies. That's great.
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
So you grew up in Utah, but you were a mountaineer. What kind of alpine work did you do as a kid?
Well, I grew up skiing. So, I began skiing when I was 4 years old and skied all the way through. And then at West Point, I ran track my first year. But when my time started going up and my morale started going down, and the grind and my grades were heading closer and closer to that 2.0 mark, the track coach and I went our separate ways. And
when he broke the news to you that the times going down is better. Oh yes. I thought I was improving.
Yes. So so I joined the sailing team and became a ski instructor, and that was the last 3 years.
You did the ski instructor as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was it about? Obviously, you were outdoorsy as a kid. What was it about the military aspect?
Well, I guess I have that defective gene that made me want to go into the infantry to be. You
were always quite focused on that branch. I remember that. Yeah.
Cold, wet, and miserable. That's what being in the infantry. When I got out, I started climbing mountains, and my style of climbing was alpine style, which is cold, wet, and miserable, and scared most of the time. And up on big mountains, you're suffering, and I guess that's my defective gene. Yeah. And now being out on the ocean, it's the same thing. You're cold, wet, and miserable.
Wet and miserable. That's great.
At least here I can bring
you were very clear. I mean, because I knew you back when we were at the academy. You were very clear that you were going to be an infantryman. There was you never deviated from that. So that entire question was answered from the moment I met you till we graduated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A defective gene. Like I said, you got to be warped to go into the infantry.
So did you ever consider the Marines and the Naval Academy, or was it all West Point all the way?
It was all West Point. You
Yeah.
know, actually, you know, I did get recruited a little bit for football, and that's what
You
got me
did.
looking at West Point. But when I showed up, the coach was like, "You're too small.
Yeah.
Go. You know, go play 150-pound football," which I'd never heard of. So I walked down the street and asked the track coach if I could try out, and he said, "Yeah, run a lap," and said, "Sure, I'll put you on the team."
Did you run in high school track?
Yeah, I did. I ran in high school and played football. Those were my two sports in high school.
What was your event as a track athlete?
I did 400.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And which part of Utah? So were you over there in the mountains, or?
Well, I grew up at the foot of Mount Olympus, which is the Wasatch Mountains on the edge of Salt Lake City.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, you know, I grew up within 40 minutes of 7 major ski resorts.
You did. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were right there.
I pretty much spent every weekend as a child in the winter up on the ski slopes of Park City.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful area. So how did you find the actual military aspect of West Point when you got there? I mean, we all had our ideas about it. When you matriculated and our day came and hit, and how did you find the actual military part?
It was a total shock. I mean, I was the first and the last in my immediate family to have
Right.
been in the military,
Right.
and so yeah, it was. I don't know what I expected. I mean, I'd never been further east than Denver
Yeah.
prior to flying back for our day,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, it was a total shock. You know, yeah, I don't, and I
Yeah.
enjoyed it, and you know, Darren Moore and I, when we were roommates, you know, it
Yeah.
was interesting because we were plebe beast roommates, and
Oh, you were. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
and, you know, Darren was pretty hard charging.
Yes, he was.
And I think he had a huge influence on me being more hard charging, and it was
Yeah.
great. And it was kind of funny because we were in separate squads. You know, he was in one squad, I was in a different squad. So, and we were roommates at Beast, and so that was very interesting.
Yeah. No kidding. That's unusual.
Yeah, it was unusual, and it was a great experience. And then we were roommates later on at West Point when we were in, I think yearling year is when we were roommates with
In
Tom
I3, yeah.
Hohenstein.
Right.
And then he was just like a floor above me in D4, or when I was in D4, and I think he was E4 in our plebe year.
Yeah. Yeah. We were all in a tight shot group because I was in C4 as a plebe, and then we were in I3 together. So
Yeah.
I knew you both as plebes, kind of anecdotally, because we were all in a similar group. And then we ended up in the same company later, so we had a similar path there. I recognized you guys when we all got together because we were kind of coming from the 4th Regiment together. So you tried the track. So you did track all of plebe year? Or that season?
The majority of it. It was into it was into the spring, early spring is when we decided to go our ways. I left in time where I went into Sandhurst competition, and I competed in Sandhurst, which was kind of an extension of, you know, moving into the infantry, getting, you know, being cold,
Sandhurst was
training
like
hard,
making cold, wet, and miserable a competition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is terrific. Only West Point.
So I did Sandhurst my spring, or the spring of my plebe year, and then after that, I was involved with sailing and ski instructor.
So how did you get the ski instruction going? What was that? So you showed up. You were a terrific skier from growing up in the Wasatch Mountains.
And I'm not sure exactly how I got involved into it. I don't remember what caught my eye, or maybe I'd heard about it and I'm like, hey, let me try that. I'm a pretty good skier. So I went out, and I guess I'm assuming we had tryouts of some sort. And
you had to run a call for it at some point. You put your name on a list and go check it out, right?
Yeah,
and
then,
they give you to become a ski instructor? Do they run you up the hill and say, okay, show us everything you can do?
I think they, you know, had us ski down and show that we knew how to ski, and then we did get training. We, you know, and We went up to Stowe, Vermont several times and got trained by full-on professional ski instructors up there, and we became members of the Professional Ski Instructors of America, PSIA,
Yeah.
and got certified through them.
There you go.
And by our first year, Pat Kilroy and John Halstead and I kind of were running the ski instructor group, and
Really?
Similar to being involved with the sailing team. Ross Clemens and I were co-captains of the sailing team there.
Yeah.
And you work your way up, just like the military, I guess. You work your way up the ranks and learn as you go along.
So where would you ski instruct?
We had that,
Yeah, obviously the Victor Constant ski slope.
Yeah, Victor
right?
Constant. Thank you.
Yeah, but when did you? Was that part of the coursework? No, I can't remember. Like who
No,
taught
no.
us?
So no. We taught dependents kids.
Okay,
And
got it.
What,
Okay.
what we would do is we had 5-ton trucks that ski instructors would drive, and we would shuttle everybody up there when they got off their last class.
Yeah.
And generally, with my class load, I seemed to always be able to get away a little bit early, and I'd run out and I'd catch one of the buses. They had
Okay.
the post buses that would run up there, and I'd take the bus up. We kept our skis and everything in the ski slope, our
Yeah.
boots and skis up there. So I was able to just hop on the bus, run up, and then we would teach class. The kids would show up, and we'd
Yeah.
teach class for the day, and then we were authorized late dinner, but we still had to be there by the middle of dinner.
So was that
attention to
essentially a
orders.
club function, like
Yeah,
the
ski instructor group was a club function,
Okay.
and the sailing team was an actual team at that point. Now I guess the sailing team has become a club, and
Yeah.
the crew
Yeah.
team, which my sponsor was the officer in charge of, and he was one of our OICs of the sailing team, helped start the crew team, and I worked with them just a little bit. I remember coxing a couple of times out with the crew team, and now the crew team's become a full-on team, and the sailing team has been reduced.
Yeah. Well, the crew was pretty new at our time, right? So
Yeah,
that was
it just started. Our first
Pilar
year
was on, and she talked about she got the women's team. She was one of the founding members.
Yeah, yeah. So
Look at that.
yeah,
Now,
I dabbled a little bit, just crossing over to help
how
them
did
out
you
when they
learn
needed help.
crew? I mean, crew's not like, oh, I'm in a sailboat now. I just go crew. That's a whole different set of skills. Where'd you pick that up? Just along the way?
That was just me helping when they needed a little bit of help. I didn't do much at all with them. I remember, like I said, I remember hopping in and coxing a couple times, trying to steer the boat and learning myself.
Yeah.
Just roughing through it, just so that because they needed somebody, and we had plenty of people that day or whatever on the, and they had just our senior year is when the sailing team had started to be reduced in its privileges. My first couple of years, we were excused from all drill and ceremony and intramurals.
Right.
And our senior year, they were only excused from intramurals. They had to go to drill and ceremony, except for I think Ross and I were like the only two that were allowed to be there every day, since we were the co-captains of the team.
Right. Because I don't remember seeing you at drill and ceremony very much. That's why I called you back here.
Yeah, I didn't march a lot. Yeah.
Rob, Mr. Infantry, where were you out there carrying that saber? You never, those were foundational days. I think you did okay.
I was shamming. I was ducking that.
That's fine. Good for you. Good for you. So now Sandhurst started as a plebe.
Just did it that 1 year again because then I got involved with the sailing team after that. So
okay, but you were in the tactics club.
Yeah, so we took out cadets on the weekends and went and did small unit tactics.
Some funny stories at the tactics club, like people being left on the sides of hills. Tom Weiss tells a story. He got left on the side of a hill one time. Everybody went back to post because there was a storm coming in, and he was sitting there with a radio.
There were some adventures we had, I mean,
leave only one man behind. It's Tom Weiss.
I remember one day we were doing a helocast operation, and we were being supported by one of the local reserve groups, and they were bringing in helos and loading up, and Tex Turner showed up
Mm-hmm.
and unexpectedly
Mm-hmm.
in his red Corvette.
Mm-hmm.
And
With the TA-50 in the back, famously.
he asked to jump on board, and I'm like, "Sure, sir, come along." And as we got in the helo and took off, the pilot contacted me over the headset, and he's like, "This is it. We're only doing one insertion. The weather's coming in. We're going to have to bug out." And I go, "As soon as we do the drop, we're going straight back." I'm like, "Can you go back to the PZ?" And he's like, "Nope, we're going straight back to our unit." And I had Tex Turner on board. He was supposed to ride back and get off where his Corvette was parked.
Right.
And I was like, "Don't worry, sir. We'll get you off and we'll get you back to your car." He's like, "Don't worry about me. Just with his cigar in his mouth, just take care of the troops."
Right.
And so that was kind of fun. But so there was always an adventure.
So how did you get out of that one? You have to walk back, basically?
So they jumped in, and then they let us off right there on the shore. And it was kind of an interesting adventure, because the idea was we were going to have them do a escape and evasion exercise after they helocast into the water. And we put them into 5-ton trucks and closed all the windows and stuff so they couldn't see out, or the flaps on the back.
Yeah.
And told them we were taking them to point A, and that when we released them at point A, they were going to do a escape and evasion route back to the beginning.
Right.
And then once we loaded them blindfolded basically into these trucks, we moved them to point B instead of point A, and had the truck ambushed en route. And so they were forced out of the truck and into their escape and evasion, not knowing where they were.
Right.
And not knowing, still knowing where they were supposed to get to. They knew the commander's intent.
Orient to figure out where they were and make an alternate plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did Colonel Turner end up in that hole?
We got him back to his car. We were able to arrange it. He worked it out. But he was like, "Take care of the mission. Just you continue the mission. I'll get myself back to my car."
Okay.
So we got him close and then let him worry about it.
You let him in on the AB switcheroo.
He didn't get into the ambush. He got moved back from the original departure point.
Because he would use a swear word or two, and I'm sure you would have heard some if you found out found out about the switcheroo the hard way.
Yeah. But he loved it. He was fun to
That's great.
He was kind of our guardian angel.
Yeah. And what course of study did you pursue at school?
I went into the first class I ever got an A in, which was Spanish, our yearling year.
You did?
And so I concentrated in Spanish.
Yeah.
I didn't want to give up my 2 free electives and major in Spanish. And I figured, a degree in Spanish, whether it was a true major in Spanish or a concentration in Spanish, wouldn't make that much of a difference to an infantryman. So I concentrated so I could take 2 free electives.
Yeah.
And I chose astronomy and then I think an English elective, actually, the Shakespeare survey.
Goodness gracious. You are a Renaissance man of the highest order. Out there
about that.
Jumping out of balloons while studying Shakespeare. My gosh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If only we did.
Colonel Capps taught that class. It was actually ended up being one of my favorite classes. I still have the actually, I think we have a house in Arizona, and I think my Shakespeare book is still there with all my Post-it note tabs and all the pages for the class.
Yeah. Sadly, that's one I didn't hold on to. A great book.
I think it's the only textbook I have.
Yeah, right. It was really a good one. I don't remember what even happened to that book. Anyway, so you kept those 2 electives. You took 2 astronomy, which perhaps helps you get around Marina Del Rey now. I mean,
I don't know. I just remember. I don't remember much about it. I other than the first day when the instructor stood in front of us and said, this class probably shouldn't be called astronomy. It's really more astrophysics.
Oh.
And I had just done, what the year of physics we had to do was just hell. I've scratched and fought, tooth and nail for getting a C in physics, and then I show up for astronomy and they tell me it's astrophysics.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Well, that was a bait and switch of the worst kind. I thought I thought I was going to see the Greek gods in the skies. What are you talking about?
Exactly, and then here I am studying
Light shifts and
astrophysics. My
all.
God.
Yeah, quasar emission ratios. I don't need all that nonsense. Anyway, oh
Yeah,
boy. Well, you got 1 for 2 on the election salvation
yeah,
program,
yeah, exactly.
elective salvation program, and then infantry was a foregone conclusion. Fort Lewis is the first
Yeah,
choice,
Fort Lewis.
and that always a plan, or was that
Well,
why
I mean,
Fort Lewis
ideally, I
over
would have
Nova
loved to
Scotia?
have gone to Vincenza or something, but I
Yeah,
was middle of our class, bottom of the middle of our class, top of
yeah,
the bottom third of our class, probably,
yeah.
and so Fort Lewis was my first realistic choice.
Okay.
Originally, I'd hoped to go into one of the Ranger battalions
Yep.
and do all that, and when I, you know, crushingly did not make it through Ranger School the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and getting dropped at the Christmas break of Ranger School
Uh-huh.
just destroyed me.
Yeah.
And showing up at my infantry battalion without the tab was just
Yeah.
killer. Luckily, my battalion commander didn't have a Ranger tab,
Mm-hmm.
and so it wasn't a detriment.
Right.
My second battalion commander came in, and Gary D. Spears was full on Ranger Mafia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brought in all of his Ranger battalion buddies, and was hardcore about it.
Yep.
And was a fantastic officer. And through him, he was able to actually, while I was still a platoon leader, send me back to Ranger School. One of
Oh.
the 2 slots from the 9th Infantry Division, he sent me back as a platoon leader instead of waiting until the advanced course to try
Yeah.
again
Right.
at Ranger School.
Okay.
And to not say it made Ranger School easier, but I had been training as a triathlete pretty hard and had 2 years of platoon time under my belt.
You'd written a few op boards in the meantime,
Yeah,
right?
and they sent me back to Ranger School, and I'm not saying it was easy, but it was
Different.
easier. It was
Yeah.
different, and it
I went to
wasn't.
Ranger School after having been in the Army and found that the cognitive load of knowing what an op order was and how it worked immensely helped. Then it was just like a
It, it,
physical grind, right? But like
it
having to figure
yeah.
out all that stuff was a big deal. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Well,
Never easy, but it made more sense in a way.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
and when I went back, they were doing a period where they weren't telling you whether you got a go or a no go on your patrol.
Right.
And by the end of the course, the rumor, of course, everybody is like, if you're getting a lot of patrols, it means you're failing, and they're trying to help you pass by giving you
Right.
more patrols to build it up.
Right.
And I got every other patrol. Every other patrol they were giving to me as the planning phase. And so I'd
Yeah.
have to do the warning order and the op order and then the rehearsals. And then
Right.
at the end of rehearsals, they would kill me and make me the RTO. And
Yeah.
then the mission would
What do
continue.
you think was happening? Was it they
Well,
knew you could put together a decent plan?
my last patrol, I remember the captain saying to me, he held up the thing with a big red go written on it.
Yeah.
And he goes, have you figured it out yet? Like, sir, I must be failing out. You're trying, you've been giving
Yeah.
me patrols every day. He's like, think about it. You've done 1 million op orders.
Yeah.
We wanted somebody who could do a good op order
Yeah.
to give the guy that was my RTO,
A shot at.
who became the patrol leader when I got killed and became the RTO,
Right.
gave him the shot of having a good op order written for him.
Yeah.
And that
'Cause they
then
were
I
looking
was
to get
beside
they were-
him as his RTO to guide him if he started to go off the path.
They had a larger training problem to solve, and that was they had to get as many qualified people through as possible, and so you were setting the table for a decent mission.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah,
But
and
that darn
what
rumor
he
head's
explained to me.
upside down.
I was like, oh my God, I'm failing out of Ranger School a second time.
Yeah, these rumors.
Yeah.
But you made it through.
I made it through. Yeah. And
Okay.
they made me the company commander for graduation, and sent me on my way, and went back and got almost another year of platoon time. I ended up with 33 months of platoon time,
Wow, there you go.
and
You know what they call a guy who had to go back and get through Ranger School a second time, if they call them, Ranger qualified. That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So
Yeah.
nobody looks back and says, how did you get there, right?
Yeah.
How many times
exactly.
you recycle, all that stuff. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Ranger
Yeah.
qualified.
So yeah, it was exciting and yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
And then from there I moved, after, I got a little bit of staff time after I was a company XO for a little
Yeah.
while and then advanced course and to Fort Carson and staff time, brigade and battalion, then company command, and then moved on and eventually ended up climbing mountains.
So at the moment of moving on, so you kind of gone through the infantry cycle. You'd made it through. You'd gone XO all the way up through, went to Fort Carson. Fort Carson now is mechanized infantry. That's a whole different world, right?
Yeah, it was an interesting experience.
The other side of infantry, right? That was the side I had experienced, was the braking track and all that kind of good, the motor pool, all that kind of good stuff. Right?
That was a whole new experience. They sent me through Fort Knox to take the maintenance officer course.
Right.
So I'd get a little experience with knowing something about the engines on an armored vehicle.
Yeah.
And then ended up being in charge of a tow company.
Mm-hmm.
And which was interesting because at Fort Lewis, being the Tonka division, we were the first people to have Humvees, and we had tow companies with Humvees that had were mounted with tow missile systems.
Mm-hmm.
So my 3 years of platoon time was all with tow missiles, and then I was a tow company executive officer, and then I ended up being a tow company commander. So I'd be willing to bet that at the time that I resigned my commission and got out, I was probably the infantry officer with the most tow experience in the United States Army.
Yeah. Well, I hear that recently wire-guided things are back in fashion. So
I have not heard that. I'd heard that they'd gone wireless and
all the drones, in order to not be jammed, have to be wire-guided now. So look at that.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
The puck has come back to us.
There it is. Yeah.
So, we might be a little long in the tooth for it, but hey, at least we recognize what's going on. What was it kind of at the moment of decision? You was it 9 years in or so? So you made the decision to get out. Where was your head, and what were you thinking at the time?
I was kind of, it was after the first Gulf War.
Yep.
I hadn't deployed on that or anything, and I was thinking at that point there was a real world mission out there for me.
Yep.
I tried being a cop for a little while. Wasn't the right job.
Yep.
A mixture, and so got out from that, and that's actually kind of when I started climbing mountains. I was there in Colorado and decided to climb Pikes Peak one day. My next door neighbor joined me, and we went up and climbed Pikes Peak, and I was like, took me back kind of to my childhood where I grew up on a mountain, playing in the mountain. And so I started hiking up mountains around in Colorado, which turned into rock climbing and just continued down the path there.
So what does a life of a mountain climber look like? Well, how do you organize yourself when you say, okay, I'm seriously doing this now? Because that's a lot that goes into that.
Well, I think I lucked out in that, grabbing all the magazines and everything and reading the magazines, Rock and Ice being one of my favorites. And one day I read an article about climbing in Patagonia. And when I had read the byline as I started the article, it was written by Gregory Crouch.
Yeah.
And so I read the article, and at the end of it, it says Gregory Crouch is a 1988 graduate of the United States Military Academy. I'm like, that's the Gregory Crouch I know.
That is the Gregory Crouch we both know. That's right.
So
that's right.
Yeah, exactly, from I3.
That's
and
right.
So I called Rock and Ice magazine and said, hey, funny thing, just read this article. Is there a way I can get in touch with Gregory Crouch? And the woman who had answered, one of the editors, she's like, well, I just happen to be dating Greg.
Well, there you go.
And Greg lived in Boulder, Colorado, and I lived down in Colorado Springs. And so I
Is that
got
right?
together with Greg and who at this point was one of the best climbers in the world,
Is that
and
right?
was climbing with a guy
And
named
a
Jim
heck of an
Danini.
author.
Yeah, and an amazing author. Yeah, the
Author of
stories
the
were
book
amazing.
Bonanza about the silver
Oh,
rush
yeah,
in
yeah. His
Nevada is a
historical
terrific book.
author
Yeah.
and his mountaineering books are great. His works on history are amazing. And so yeah, I Greg took me under his wing and taught
That's
me some
amazing.
climbing,
Yeah.
and introduced me to his mentor, a guy named Jim Danini, who was one of the first climbers in Patagonia back at the beginning of history. Back at the late '60s, early '70s, in
Yeah.
Yosemite. And so through them, I got really further involved in the climbing world. And in the meantime, I was dating my now wife,
Mm-hmm.
and through her, when she had finished grad school and got hired by Kinko's at the time,
Mm-hmm.
I did not need to have a full time job. I had been working for Starbucks at that point, which is
Mm-hmm.
where I met her, at Starbucks.
Okay.
And
You were all
she
in on the climbing. I mean, you were.
yeah, I was I
Yeah.
was I
I
was
mean,
still climbing as much as I could. And
the thing I know about you from all the way back in the day, you're not a man of half measures.
I dabble in things, but when I dabble in something, I go all
You
in.
go, yeah,
You
right.
know,
You don't.
I keep
Yeah.
changing
I don't
things,
think you
but
dabble. I think
yeah,
you're in. That's great.
yeah,
So
yeah, I
you
get
were
in,
all
and
in at that point. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Good.
you know, but I like trying different things. So as part of my outdoor world, along with the climbing, and this is again going back to West Point.
Sure.
Pat Kilroy and I did the Comax Valley Snow to Surf, which was kind of a mixed sport activity where we did
Hmm.
skiing, running, cycling, uh, canoe paddling race up in Canada. Uh, well, we did no. There was a different one in New York. That was the one that was up in Canada. I can't remember what it was called in New York. There was one just outside of West Point somewhere, and we did that, which had biking and skiing and paddling in it. I can't remember the name of it at this point, but
Yeah.
yeah, we did that. So that kind of got me involved in cycling, and then as part of my outdoor world thing, I went to work in a climbing shop, and then we eventually started selling bikes at the climbing shop, and that got me involved with bikes again. So and I had done triathlon, like I said earlier,
Yeah.
while I was a lieutenant. So I was still kind of involved with bikes and the outdoor pursuit. And so those two passions there kind of tied into what I started working once Kim had a real job and I didn't have to work 24 hours or work
Yeah.
full
Right.
time for a company.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I started working in a climbing shop and got making more connections and climbing as much as possible, ice climbing, rock climbing, mountaineering, and traveling as much as I could. Eventually became a rep. Through my contacts in the climbing world, I went to work for one of the rep groups as a manufacturer's representative, a technical representative,
Yeah.
where I would go around to climbing shops and teach them about the gear of the companies I worked for. And we covered 9 states, so I would travel around there, and basically it was an excuse to go travel and climb.
Right.
I'd show up somewhere and climb for
You were
a week,
repping,
and
but you were
and
doing
then I
what you
would
love
go
to
stop
do.
at
Right.
REI and give the REI a class on whatever company I was representing for them.
Right. It's
You know,
like a person who
whether
loves to fish being paid to go around and talk about hooks.
yeah,
Right? So,
exactly,
I mean,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
sure.
So I'd go in sometimes. I'd work the floor in an REI. I'd just stand out in the climbing area helping customers,
Right.
and I'd grab one of the employees and say, "Hey, here, let me tell you about our gear here. This is what makes our gear better
Yeah.
than their gear." And so I worked for a few different bike companies and a few different climbing companies, and did that for several years. And then they started pushing me more into the sales side of it,
Hmm.
and I realized I'm I'm a great opener. I'm not shy. I love talking to people,
Sure.
but I'm not a closer. It was really hard for me to say, okay, now give me $30,000 and buy X amount of widgets to put on
Right.
your climbing wall. And, and
So less suited for that
yeah,
lane of work, right?
yeah. And then it kind of tied in with, I got in 2008 with the year that tried to kill me. I'd had a couple of pulmonary embolisms
Ah,
that
yeah.
put me in the hospital, and then I got run over by a car
Well,
that
that'll do
really
it.
almost killed me because I was on blood thinners and should
Oh,
have had a brain bleed, but luckily didn't.
goodness.
And
All right.
I remember my boss coming up and saying, he's like, "Can you do the job?" Because I was really beat up,
Yeah, yeah,
and I was like, "I go, I can." I go,
yeah,
"But I don't want to anymore."
yeah, 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 yeah.
And so ever since then, I've just kind of drifted along, picking up odd jobs here and there, working again at, well, I worked for through Mike Nelson, our classmate.
Uh-huh.
I remember on our Facebook or whatever he posted, or maybe it was our email chain,
Yeah.
saying that he had a friend who was looking for people to teach about lead-based paint. And
Okay.
I'm like, I enjoy teaching things. As a ski instructor, I taught climbing. I've led groups in the mountains. I've led infantrymen. Let me try that. And
Yeah.
so got trained to teach this class. And eventually I ended up kind of taking over the training department of this little small
And
company.
who were you teaching about was it teaching
Contractors. So years
about how to
ago,
use it?
they passed a law that required them to take this course on how to deal with lead-based paint
Got it.
safely.
Yeah. Right.
And hired a couple of our classmates in,
Is that right?
Dan Rizzo, and
Riz. Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
losing the other name.
It'll come back to you. Yeah.
He was one of our prior service guys, and I can't
Okay.
remember his name right now.
It'll come back to you in a sec.
Yeah.
So you guys ran this little training group, basically.
Yeah, and we tried to hire. I was hiring people up to about 50 people across the country teaching.
Oh, wow.
So I was traveling around the country auditing their courses. The EPA required me to audit each instructor twice a year.
Okay.
And when you have almost 50 instructors, that's 100 audits you have to do
Yeah, sure.
across the country. So I was traveling all the time doing that. And then the EPA quit enforcing the law. So contractors quit signing up to take this course.
Right.
We went from 3,000 students a month to 3,000 students a week to 30 students a month.
Right.
And the boss is
Turns out
going to
that
have to cut your pay,
concept-
and I'm like, just cut my job, man. It's just not worth it anymore. And
Right. Turns out that doing the right thing is not exactly the driver of corporate activity.
yeah, exactly.
Or sales profit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we went our separate ways, and I still stay in touch with the old boss, but his company just shrunk immeasurably because of that, and
That was a good run, though. You had a good.
Oh, yeah.
That could be considered a success because while the demand was there, you ran a good program.
Yeah, it was fun. It was good. It was weird to be teaching about lead-based paint, but it was good. You show up in front of a group, and I'd teach occasionally, and other than that, I'd go in and watch other people teach, and I'd helped write the program, and we'd helped develop the program for the EPA because my boss was considered one of the leading experts on lead-based paint in the United States. He was on President Clinton's commission that helped develop the law. He was the only he was the only grunt that was on that commission. There were a bunch of educated leaders of business, and he was this former Navy E5 that had worked on nuclear submarines, so had a great understanding of radiation. And so
what's the advantage
of radiation?
The science moment for the podcast. What's the advantage of lead-based paint? Because if it obviously has its downside that you have to learn about how to use it responsibly, but it has to have some commercial advantage that people use it.
Colors are more vibrant. It is more durable. It lasts
More
forever.
durable. Yeah.
It is a much better paint than what exists today, but
Right.
it
But
has the
it's got
negative.
it's
It
got
has the
lead in it.
negative
Yeah.
of killing or severely injuring small children.
Yeah.
And it's the ads of the kids eating the paint chips. It's not really the paint chips that kill you. It's the lead dust.
Right. Right.
And it was something like the lead-based paint at the minimum amount to be considered legally lead-based paint. A packet the size of a Splenda packet would poison 20 children.
Well,
You know,
that's not good. We agree with
that's
that.
not good. Yeah. So that was the idea, was to train the contractors how to
And I'm sure
avoid.
Splenda's going to be delighted that we've mentioned them in the same sentence as lead-based paint, but we're
Yeah.
leaving it in.
Yeah.
You know what? I get a cease and desist from the Splenda Corporation, then we've made it. That's good.
There you go.
All right. And so that we're now that takes you up to what year? And that's
That was early 2010s, 11 or
okay.
12 probably. And we, at that point, Kim and I have moved all over the place. Her job has
Yeah.
taken us a bunch of places. So we, at that point, I think we were moving about then from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Phoenix, Arizona.
Now, was she the driver of the moves based on what she was doing,
Yes.
or
Yes.
it would
Yes.
be just,
So she, I guess my time to brag about her a little bit.
let's brag about Kim
Um, she opened the first Starbucks store in Colorado Springs when I
first? Is that
was
right?
just starting my mountaineering. I was working as a waiter in a restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
or bar manager. Actually, I moved from waiter to bar manager within my first 2 weeks. Thank
Uh-huh.
God. I was a terrible waiter, better bartender. And
Turns out rappelling to the tables was not something that was assisting with
yeah.
tips.
But yeah, so and having been up at Fort Lewis, I was a big fan of Starbucks coffee.
Yeah,
The beginnings of Starbucks were up in the Northwest.
that's right.
And so I used to stop at Starbucks every day on my way home. And so on opening day of the first Starbucks in Colorado Springs, and I'd lived there for several years without a Starbucks.
Yeah.
And so and one of my best friends still to this day was my manager of my store in Tacoma, Washington. So
Okay.
on opening day, I walked in and said, "Who's your manager? I want to meet the manager." And they said, "Over there." So I walked over and said, "Hi, I'm Rob. I'm going to be one of your regulars."
Yeah.
So here we are 32 years later.
Okay. An auspicious
and-
beginning.
And in our 29 years of marriage, we've lived in 28 houses.
Yeah. Well,
And, and I only count places we had mail delivered. That's my rule. If we had mail delivered to it, it counts as a residence. The various
kind of
hotels we've
yeah.
lived in for months here and there don't count.
Yeah, that doesn't count. But if you really counted it up, it would be too frightening to think about. And so she's very mobile in her job, and then you're very dynamic in your own interests, and so you guys just live that way, which works, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh. And as of Monday, she is now the new vice president for partner, which is Starbucks words for employees. So for partner and labor relations for Starbucks.
Is that right? Well, there
And
you go.
We're moving to Nashville.
Is that right?
Yes,
We're breaking the news here. This is an exclusive.
it is. Don't
Terrific.
tell my boss here. Nobody can tell anybody in Southern California.
This is Class 86. This is an internal matter.
Yes,
Rob's
I
moving to
want
Nashville.
to. They're announcing it to. They announced it to her team just 2 days ago. Her new
Oh
team.
man!
And her
Congratulations
old
to
team.
her. That sounds good. So she's been with Starbucks the whole time, and the dynamism comes from all the different roles she's had at Starbucks.
Yeah. So she actually left Starbucks for a few years when she was in grad school. She couldn't manage multiple stores while going to school full time, and then got recruited back. And so she went to work for Kinko's, and Kinko's took us from Colorado to Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
And then they eliminated her job.
Yeah.
But they said, don't worry, we have a job for you. And that took us to Vancouver, Washington,
Yeah.
Camas, Washington, actually, and the Portland area. And then that from there, she went to Salt Lake City, just as in 2002. It was the year of one of our
So she would just
reunions.
basically come home and say, "Here's the new program," almost like being in the military. Here's the new program,
Yeah.
and you'd say, "Okay."
Very much so. Me being the trophy wife, she would come home.
What a prize!
Yeah,
Look at it there.
I was kind of a bowling trophy, but yeah. So she would come home and say, "We're moving to Utah." She goes, "I know you grew up there and you don't want to go back, but I got transferred there." And she was gone the next week, and I would stay behind. I would sell the house, pack it up, and move us to wherever. And then we were in the Northwest for a year and a half, then Utah for about a year and a half, and Starbucks called her back and said, "Hey, we want you to come back." And so that moved us to Fort Collins, Colorado, then back to Colorado Springs, or actually back to Golden, Colorado, and then New Mexico, nice. Arizona, Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah.
Las Vegas. I forgot we were in Las Vegas for a while. Then back to Toronto, Canada, then Boston, then Hawaii, and now here.
Got it. It all makes sense now. So she's pursuing, basically she's using the advantage of her flexibility in an organization, which is great. Actually, the kids these days will never understand it because all the robots are going to do all the jobs. But at one point, your ability to move physically was an advantage because if they had a problem in Portland, they'd say, "We need someone in Portland," and we'd say, "Okay, I'll go next Monday," right? So she was doing that for her organizations, and you were flexible in your interests, and so you guys took advantage of that and lived a good life. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it made it great for us.
Yeah, good for you. And then, so when are you wheels up for the new location?
Well, I hope to work through the summer driving boats.
Yeah,
it's our busy time. We do as a contractor for the county, we do what's called the water bus. Yeah. Which, if you live in Southern California, it's $1. Come out, ride the water bus. It's $1. Well, $2. It's $1 halfway around.
Captain Rob is only almost sunk once.
And if you come on my boat, I'll let you come up top, even.
That's right.
But yeah, so I hope to do that again this summer.
I won't empty the bilge into the bottom of the boat too much.
I haven't had too much trouble on my smaller boats. I did have a drunk fight me once.
Well, he didn't know what he was getting into with that.
It wasn't much of a fight, but
have you heard of free boxing, sir? Obviously, no.
Well, yeah. So, and then, having been a cop and everything, it's not the first time I've had a drunk come at me. So, I kind of took him down, and luckily I had crew on my boat. And
you were an upperclassman in 3rd Regiment. It wasn't the first time we had drunks come at us.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, but yeah. Goodness. So I hope to work that job through the summer, and they're still building the new, as I understand it, the new office for the East Coast in Nashville, and so there's going to be some flexibility.
I'm trying to think of what kind of adventuresome thing we can get you going with in Nashville. I guess
I found a riverboat job posted, so which requires a 100-ton license.
There. You could get that going.
It has a 100-ton license requirement. I'm qualified, so I hope to.
That'd be terrific. Hey, we're doing a Shiloh trip. Maybe you come down in a gunboat and we can reenact something. And I get the classmates all lined up. They think we're just going around and say, "Here's Captain Rob with the gunboat." Oh boy, we have big plans here.
There we go. Yeah, how exciting!
I tell you what, let's just get us one of those old steam gunboats going. I love it. Okay, well, good. Well, Nashville's got a good group up there. And you know what? One thing you can be sure of with Kim's success is that you'll be there for a while, and then you'll have another adventure after that.
Yeah. We've been here in Southern California for almost 4 years now, and that's about as long as we've been anywhere.
That's
we're in Hawaii for 5 years or 4 years, and New Mexico for 5, which the land of entrapment. That was
right. That's quite enough. Yeah, 4 years
Yeah.
is a good run. That's good. Well, good. That's good. And I'm glad to have broken the news here. This would just be a podcast of people BSing if we didn't have some exclusives on occasion. So you've just taken us to the next level. I appreciate
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's I'm really proud of her. So she's
Yeah,
worked her butt
rightfully
off,
so. She's
and
done very well.
yeah,
She's done very well. You married well, which is really the key to life. So
yeah.
good for you. Is there any story that we have not covered that you would love to cover that either from cadet days or not that we get in here?
No, I don't know. I just the other thing I'm proud of is just being even associated with our class, to see all the great things so many of our classmates have done is just amazing. It's why I was happy when you asked me to join on this. It's like, I think our class is just great. So
Yeah.
it's an honor to be associated with this group of amazing people that have done so much and had such an impact on the world that it's great to follow along in the footsteps of these great people.
Well said.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. And the more stories we hear, the more astonishing the group becomes to all of us, right? To include captaining 100-ton boats.
Yeah. Yeah.
And having all sorts of adventures. Well, you have lived a life and are living a life of adventure. And with Nashville, you'll be within closer distance to those of us on the East Coast. So we look forward to. Actually, I come through Nashville quite a bit on my trips back and forth to Colorado. So we'll no doubt
We'll
have a
look forward to
chance
seeing
to
you.
pick up in person. Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be my first time ever living in Central Time Zone.
Yeah, it's worth giving a shot. And then hopefully we're going to have you. Hopefully at the reunion we're going to have a few folks at the I3 table to catch up on old times in November. So, but I never like putting anyone on the spot with that. And of course, since this is going to be this podcast we reference through the ages, the reunion will been long past when the aliens see this 3 millennia from now. But Rob Dowse, thanks so much for coming on, man. It was a really great catching up.
Oh, my pleasure, and thank you for everything you've done with organizing this and making these podcasts happen. That's awesome.
The pleasure's mine. All right, thanks, brother. Talk to you soon.
Go Polar Bears.
Oh, go Polar Bears. All right. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Courage Never Quits podcast, where any member of the class of 1986 who is willing to tell their story will be a guest. To get the word out and stay up to date on the latest episodes, hit the like and subscribe button. With over 900 living graduates, we have a lot of stories to tell, and you don't want to miss any of them. We'll see you in the next episode.